Welcome to The Network, a modern podcast version of the Negro Motorist Green Book. I've had the chance to interview some of my favorite people. Every episode is designed to help our community navigate the funky four corners of life. We are here to help the physical, mental, spiritual, and financial health of Black people living in and traveling through America. Subscribe to The Network. You never know, you might need it. All right, we back. I'm your host, Michael Prejean. This is The Network. I got another one of my favorite people here with me tonight. Listen, The Network is designed to help you navigate the funky four corners of life. What does that mean? We're trying to help Black people in the United States navigate physically, financially, mentally, and spiritually. Today's guest is Dr. Brian Turner of New Orleans, Louisiana. He is a New Orleans native. He completed his undergraduate studies at the Southern University at Baton Rouge. He completed his doctoral studies in clinical psychology at Jackson State University. This brother is the owner and operator of Moments of Truth, LLC. He practices privately as a licensed clinical psychology. He currently serves as the associate professor and the department head in the Department of Psychology at Xavier University of Louisiana. Ladies and gentlemen, y'all give a big hand for Dr. Brian L. Turner. BT, how you doing, bro?
I'm good. I'm back with the fam, back with you, bro. So it's good to see you. It's always good to get back popping. I think you actually about to take the top off of the can because I think everybody is ready to get back rolling, bro. So this is a great start. Lots of good things we're gonna run it on tonight, man. So I'm good, bro. I'm good. Look, I done lived past Mardi Gras this year. We done French Quarter Fest. We done
That's right.
the AKA convention, the South Central Regional. They didn't come and tore the city up and put it back together again. So we heading into the summer ready for Essence Fest and everything good, man.
There it is, man. There it
Yeah.
is. Listen, before we get started, we like to give flowers. So let's not wait until somebody dies to give flowers. So before we jump into this thing, who would you like to give flowers to?
Well, first off, man, I'm gonna give flowers to you, my guy, brother. We've known each other now for over 25 years at this point. So in this
Yes,
past
sir.
year, brother Michael Prejean, your host of the network podcast, was named Teacher of the Year in his school district. So I want to give a big shout out to you, man, because look, in today's society, we sometimes diminish and minimize the work that educators do. And you're not just a teacher, you're an educator. You educate students through life, through relationships, through the course of their studies, so that they can be better people in society. So I'm going to give my flowers to you, man, on the strength of I know the work you do, I know the person that you are, and I know the person that you are working to be.
Man, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. That means a lot, man. Thank you so much for that. All right, so we went through the bio. So we got a couple of things we're gonna talk about tonight. But before we get into that, tell us, why is it that you do what you do?
Oh, man, because, and I feel very comfortable. So we're going to be able to relax tonight, man. I do
That's
what I
what's up.
do because somebody did it for me. Every step along the way in my life, on this path that I've lived, I found a mentor, a guide, a guru, a sage, elder who was able to keep me going. And sometimes I found that motivation in a young, hungry, person who was watching me. And so on both ends of that, man, I found that I needed to make sure, as the proverb says, are the children, how are the children doing? Right? And I'd have to pull it up right now because I'm in another mindset. But the question how the children do is a reference to the fact that if the children aren't doing well, then we're not doing well. And so I do what I do to make sure the children are doing well. We have to ensure that our children will have, once again, trees to sit under in terms of that shade, man. So we have to be mindful to take care and do what we got to do. So that's why I do it, bro, every day.
Man, that's good. That's good. I'm definitely gonna pin a couple of those things that you said, because what you spoke was truth. The children will let us know how things are going. So one of the things we talk about in the world of education is every major cultural change always comes through the classroom first.
Yeah.
So we see it in the classroom before it hits society at large. So
Yeah.
that's real talk right there, man. So one of the things we had talked about, I hit you up and I was like, BT, man, I got to get you back on the podcast. And I kind of want to talk about a couple of things, you know. So I hit you and I was like, listen, man, I want to talk about black men and panic attacks, you know. So the first question I want to ask you, and while it may be a little broad, I'm glad it's intended that way, so that you can take it and run with it. So the first question I want to ask you, man, is do black men panic?
First off, I would say, man, you gotta be kidding me, dog. You know we panic, bro. You'd have had
Right.
them red and blue lights behind you before.
Yes, sir.
We'd have
Yes,
been on
sir.
a schoolyard before, and we get picked that day. So in a very like kind of tongue in cheek, man, it would be kind of a myth for us not to recognize that black men oftentimes experience some of the greatest panic and anxiety symptoms, man, because of the world we live in. So from an etiology standpoint, we have to understand that black men live in a world that too often criminalizes, demonizes us, and ostracizes us. So we're in
Hmm.
a situation where we know what it's like as black men, and the experience as black men is that we're probably in many ways, as um, Brother Baldwin said, we live in a constant state of turmoil. It's
Yeah.
just that
Yeah.
duality of our existence is that to be black and American, is a constant state of turmoil because we're constantly trying to figure out where do we fit. And then when we when we look at the intersection of gender, specifically with black men, and this is no in any way diminishing what our sisters experience, but as a black man, I know at 6'3", 300 pounds, when I walk into a room, when I walk into a space, there's a different energy. And I experienced that within my own people, that I look a certain way. I
Yeah.
look to be thought menacing. I mean, that was the terminology used to describe Michael Brown by the police officer who was sworn to protect and to serve and had the gun and had all these things. But he claimed that Michael Brown looked so menacing, right? When we think
Hmm.
about what happened with Trayvon Martin and the idea that he was to be so much of a menace as he walked with his Skittles and his Arizona tea, and you think of Tamir Rice, who at 12 years old sitting and playing with a gun in a park, a play gun, in less than 7 seconds, the police to pull up on him and shoot him. And then to think about the young man, Ralph Yarl, who was shot in the head by a homeowner for ringing his doorbell, man. Like that right there should be enough for people to understand that too often as black men, we probably live in a state of anxiety and a state of panic for nothing we've actually done. But because we understand that there's a potential assault on us that can be wrought upon us simply because of the color of our skin.
So, man, that's a lot. So, do black men recognize? So, because a lot of us probably live, like you said, in a state of anxiety and in a state of panic. What does that look like? How do those symptoms manifest themselves? Do brothers? I'm asking a million questions, and I'm writing them down as we go. So, what does that look like? How do those symptoms manifest? And do brothers recognize them? And then, how do not only we recognize them, but how do our significant others recognize them? You know, our family members, you know, our sons, our daughters, our wives, you know, those who are close to us. So the first thing is, you know, man, what does that look like?
I think the reality is that for most black men, the experience of anxiety is normal, right? It's what we live with. We get up every day. We got to make it to work. We got to make it through work. And we got to make it home from work, right?
Hmm.
I'm often thought about the mythology of John Henry, right? The black man who in essence killed himself or died because of exhaustion from overworking himself trying to be the steam engine, and the reality being, well, what is the Pyrrhic victory if you're going to work yourself to death and not be able to enjoy the life you live? So if you think about it, I think most black men live in a state of that John Henryism, that we understand that in essence, some of us, we're working ourselves to death in order to appear as masculine as possible. Ronald Levant and Richard Major's book Cool Pose and the work they did around masculinity highlights the fact that oftentimes within the African American community, we adhere to this white male patriarchal identification of masculinity that often incarcerates us to a belief that somehow we have to be these hyper masculine representations of manhood that actually will kill us, right? So that's what it looks like every day. We get up, we go, and we go, and we go. We're not going to stop. If we have to do it, we're going to do it. In many ways, it limits us in terms of our ability to be emotionally present, physically present, and intellectually and psychologically present, right? So what
Okay,
happens
hold
every
on.
day?
Let me.
Uh-huh.
I wanna pause you right there, right? And then I want you to repeat what you said, but I want you to slow it down a little bit because I want the people who are gonna be watching and listening to really hear what you said. So we go and we go and we go. That's the grind,
Yes,
right?
we
That's
hustle.
that grind culture, that hustle
Yeah,
culture.
yeah.
Gotta get it. And that's masking our anxiety.
That is the typical way that most black men specifically are going to mask anxiety as well as other psychological disturbances and distress. But when you
Hmm.
think about anxiety, the anxiety is what, if I'm not man enough, then I don't get the car, I don't get the house, or I don't get the promotion, or I don't get the girl, or if I'm gay, right? I grind and grind because I'm going to hide my sexual identity because I don't need one to question me, right? Or if I'm not as
Hmm.
strong, I might become the hyper masculine individual because I don't want to be seen as vulnerable and weak. So that grind culture, that hustle culture, right? And a lot of times, where has this stuff been told us, especially in today's society? It really comes out of, once again, the white male patriarchal kind of edifice that tells black men what they have to do. If we use it, right? Think about it. A lot of early rappers talked about a certain white male as the epitome of masculinity and power. Donald Trump. Why? Because he could go and do what he
Right.
want. He had the money, he had the power, perceived money and power, right? So we buy into this idea that I have to present as this like unyielding, unwielding, unending force. And a lot of it is driven by, once again, that anxiety that if I stop, right, I'm not gonna make it. Now the benefit of such is that that's the very thing that oftentimes will take us where we want to go, right? Graduate
Right.
school,
Right.
right? Football, right? Our family lives, a lot of times, those are the things that will drive us and will perpetuate us towards the towards the trajectory of what we want. But there has to be a point in time, and I think this is the next question: is what does it look like every day? What it looks like is
Hmm.
I'm at home and I'm trying to enjoy time with my kids, but I fall asleep on the sofa while we're supposed to be watching the movie. Or my wife wants to
Yeah.
go out
Yeah.
because she wants to spend time and I'm too tired, right? Or I forget that there's an event for somebody because I'm working so hard, I'm grinding so hard that I work through it. I forget about it. Then when I show up, they're looking at me like, well, you didn't show up for me, right? And so it becomes the absent mindedness, it becomes the lack of input, it becomes the lack of engagement. And that panic, once again, is not going to manifest itself, particularly in a way that has a black man cowering in a corner, shaking and scared. It's normally going
Hmm.
to show
Hmm.
up in a way that has him unavailable for those that he really cares about. So then to
Wow.
so then
Go ahead.
what
Go
that
ahead.
what that looks like, to your point, to our family, our friends, and our partners, we look like we don't love anybody. We look selfish. Or we could look determined. We can look focused, right? And I think that's why many times we don't know how to actually intervene in these moments. Because even as friends, right? As I think about some friends I have and myself, even, right? I tell my partners, I tell my friends, I say to them, look, man, you need to slow down, bro. You need to chill. Like you're not where you should be. You where you want to be, but you're not where you should be. You should be here with friends. You should be here with family. You should be with your kids. You should be sitting on the side of the pool sometimes, right? You should be able to sit in
Right.
your backyard and smoke a cigar and have a drink and just take it all in. And so what happens is our loved ones and our family and those surrounding us are not sure what to do, right? Because then, of course, the trajectory or the kind of traverse, what happens is you try to tell your partner you care about them, and they might get upset. Like, what do you mean? I have to do this. I have to get us ahead. You said you want the new house, or we want to take this. The one I was joking about, you say you want to take this vacation, so I got to basically kill myself to get us on vacation so that all I do on vacation is sleep, right? Or we go on
Right.
vacation,
Right.
and when I come back, I'm so tired from being on vacation because I come back and all I have to do is work. And so I think those 3 points really play into how, especially for Black men, we have to be more cognizant of the fact that some of the things that are driving us and some of what pulls us in many ways are not the things we really should be seeking, right? Actually, just today, man, I taught in psychotherapy about choice theory and reality therapy, and the five needs that are often talked about are the survival need, loving, belonging, power, freedom, and fun. And oftentimes, and this is the point about that anxiety that I think for Black men we have to work on, is that love and belonging. And that in many ways, the love and belonging need is the need that actually drives us through the other ones, because love and belonging is what connects us to other people, right? It's the thing that makes us where we belong. Where do I fit? So many times I think as Black men, and here's the bombshell from my own experiences, sometimes the struggle for Black men is really the question, where do we fit? Where do I belong? Who loves me? Who do I love? Who's willing to love me? Who can I open
Right.
myself up to so that I can be loved, right? Because
Right.
that
Right.
anxiety once again drives a lot of that kind of space, that if I'm vulnerable, if I'm soft, if I'm not hustling, if I'm not grinding, then what am I actually doing? And
Yeah.
I think that plays into that ideal of the question asked, like how does it look? Well, to most people, it looks like that's what you're supposed to be doing until to the point now you go to the doctor. And now at 40, 45, and 50, you're having hypertension, and you're having diabetes, and you're having all kind of other physical ailments and stuff. And they don't know why. It's because the anxiety and panic and stuff is kind of eating you up from inside.
That's good. That's good. So, man, I heard a lot in there. I heard some. So the social studies teacher in me was analyzing. Right. I'm
Mm-hmm.
analyzing, and I heard economics. I heard some sociology in there. I heard
Mm-hmm.
relationship dynamics. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I heard a lot in there. So, two-part question. First question is, where has the messaging to Black men gone wrong? And
Mm-hmm.
then on the backside of that is, what messages do we need to hear?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we everything you're saying is, I believe it's accurate, right? And it's almost like it's a gift and a curse, because that same thing that's driving us can also be
Mhm.
the same thing that kills us and makes us unavailable.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, where did the messaging go wrong, or where did we
Yeah.
misinterpret the message,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Because, there's an old saying, if a man don't work, a man don't eat,
Right. Right.
right? So we grind and we hustle, you know, all my life. I've been grinding all my life.
Yeah.
Sacrifice, hustle, pay the price, right?
Yeah.
So where have we misinterpreted that message?
And of course, the thing that I think about is that if a man only works, then he'll never get a chance to eat because he's always working, right? So at some point in time,
Good, good.
you got to be able to stop so that you can actually eat, right? And man, he just gave me this image of so many Black men that I think about, who they work so hard and they come flying through the kitchen and they got to grab something to eat because they're on to the next task, right?
Hmm.
And I hate that I keep using the example, bro, but it's the best one I have. It's the best one that fits. But to me, the example of when the messages switch, right, and it's a kind of point of emphasis. It's just the point that we would have to say maybe makes this mark. I need a soldier, right? The song that I rapped, I listened to, and I wanted to be a soldier. But when you break down the lyrics, right, arguably the three most beautiful women in the world at the time, Kelly, Beyonce, and Michelle. Their song is
Right.
telling young Black men, I need a soldier. Telling young Black boys, I need a soldier. And the messaging is quite clear. I need a brother who flips his money three ways. I need a brother from the BK that be chiefing, riding low, right? Well, Mike, we rock the same. Well, we from? If a brother flipping his money three ways, he's selling drugs,
Yeah.
right? That's not a
Yeah.
401k. It's not an IRA. It's not a mortgage. It's not 780, 800 credit. It's not a degree, a PhD, a master's, or, JD or anything like that. It's not a BS even, right? So for me, and not to beat up on a song because the song tells a story. Oftentimes we say, "Does life imitate art, or does art imitate life?" But that's where we have to be mindful that somewhere along the way, we stop listening to the likes of Louis Farrakhan, right? We stop listening to the likes of Jesse Jackson and even our more contemporaries, the Mark Lamont Hill and um,
Mm-hmm.
the Michael
Mm-hmm.
Eric Dysons and even Roland Martin, right? We kind of left those brothers and those sisters too, like the Nikki Giovanni's and the Audre Lordes, and we stopped really following those, the Michelangelo Davis, and we began to look to the celebrities, right? We began to look to the
Right.
media moguls, right? And not that they don't, in some shape or form, um, constitute a reliable voice of what's going on. But if the messaging is to be uplifting, and that's why I think when we listen to Erica Lauren Hill, and she says, if the music is supposed to uplift the people, right, then what's happened? And because if the people are downtrodden, they keep
Yeah.
listening to music, it's got to be something in the music. So you can apply it across the board. So whether it be television, movies, music, our engagement with each other, right? I have to say that the messaging has gotten mixed up in the fact of who do we listen to? Who do we follow, right? I've had to do this thing. So, in my little learning state of being, right? I wasn't big on the gram. I didn't really understand how it works. So I might click on a picture
Mm-hmm.
or two here and there. And all of a sudden, those are all the pictures and things I'm getting. I had to ask someone to say, why I don't get the people I follow? And they say, well, Dr. Turner, because when you start clicking on stuff, the algorithm reads that that's what you want to see. So now you're just going to get a bunch of beach bodies and you're going to get all of the gym stuff, right? And so I had to
Right.
realize
Right.
that I have to be conscious of who I follow. I got to be conscious of what I listen to. I have to be conscious of where I go, right? Excuse me, because inherently what I put in is going to be or affect or impact what comes out. And so for our
Right.
kids,
Right.
oftentimes, what are we allowing them to take in, right? I was very impressed with my daughter recently. We visited a fraternity brother of mine, and she walked up to a picture and she said, "Oh, that says Dr. Martin Luther King Jr." And he was like, "She know that?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Come on, man. I mean, he frat." I said, "But I teach my daughter Black history regularly, right? As a matter of fact, like I'm sorry, Black Santa Claus don't come to my house. I mean, White Santa Claus don't come to my house, right? Not because he don't exist, but because the only Santa Claus that can come down my chimney in New Orleans, I actually have a chimney, right? Is Black Santa Claus,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I had to explain to her that no, White Santa exists just for white people, and there's Chinese Santa, and there's Asian Santa, and there's like Latina Santa, but we got Black Santa, and
Right.
guess what? We got the Black
Right.
Tooth Fairy, right? We got the Black Easter Bunny, right? Because I think that's a
Right.
part of it is that we've become so lax with the messaging as you asked the question, bro. So yeah,
Man, that is good. So you mentioned the names of some people, that we kind of stopped listening to, that we need to perhaps tune into again.
hmm
Um, so in your opinion, what is, if you could sum it up, and you kind of said this already, but what is the message that black men specifically need to hear as we talk about, black men and the panic,
yeah.
the
So
anxiety? What is the message that
yeah,
black men need to hear? And well, I'm gonna let you answer that
yeah.
the first part first.
Brother, I'm so diverse with this that I want to be real. I don't think there's one message to be heard, but I think there's one theme, right? And that theme has to be that you can do it, that you can be it. As Dr. White once said to me about the work we're talking about, really with black men, is if black boys don't see it, they can't be it. But if they see it, they can achieve it. So we have to ensure, and actually, I'm now reminded of the in New Orleans we have a mentorship collaborative across 4 mentorship organizations specifically aimed at working with Black boys. We specifically put 8th grade boys in New Orleans through the Silverback Society specifically in front of a diversity of Black men across thought, across industry, across experience, across livelihood. Black men are not a monolith. And to me, once again, if you think about it, that becomes a part of the anxiety, the panic, right? Is that if there's only one type of Black man that I can be, that's a very narrow, portal to go through. And I can easily begin to ascertain if I don't fit. So if I'm not playing football, and if I'm not the biggest dude, and if I'm not thugging, if I'm not this very limited idea of masculinity for Black men, I can already say, well, that's not me, and I fall to the wayside. But Black men could be, and Dr. Calvin Mackey here in New Orleans talks about this with his STEM list, that there's 3 things that we have to think about, right? That when it's all said and done, it's about time, talent, and treasure, right? And based upon those things, we can understand that when you look at the likes of a Peyton Manning or a Tiger Woods or a LeBron James, we didn't wait until they were 18 to give them a football, golf clubs, and a basketball. We have to ensure that we're showing our kids at very early ages the broad expanse of what they could be intellectually. Well, let's go back to what you said: mentally, physically, spiritually, and financially. Right?
Right,
We
right.
need to be explaining to them early on that you don't have to just play football, right? And that was kind of my message, right? I didn't just have to play football. I could be a doctor or a scholar. I could be. I never learned an instrument, but I do want to learn how to play piano. So when I get older and I think I'm rich, I might go back and take lessons, right? I
There
definitely
it
can't
is.
sing. I definitely can't sing, so I can't do that. But I was a nerd, bro. I liked reading, right? I mean, during summers, my mom used to trick me into reading, but I came to love it to the point where I always had a book. I mean, I was that Black kid in the neighborhood. I always had a book. I would go, look, we would be playing football in the street. When my team, before we played, I would be reading. And then we would play, and then we wouldn't get off the street no more, right? But I would be
Yeah.
reading before the game. Like, look at the dude, bro. He reading. Okay, well, I'm going to bust your ass when I get on the court, though. And then it's like, well, how you beat us? Well, because I can read and you can't. You know what I mean? So
There it is.
yeah.
Time, talent, and treasure. Man, you said it right. It's not, the messages are diverse, but the theme that brothers need to hear, starting at a young age, is you can do it.
Yeah.
If you can see it, you can be it. So it is our responsibility to make sure that we procure the talent in our communities, make sure we pour time into them, because they are our treasure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, that's good stuff. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so this is what I did, BT. So, man, I put some questions out on the gram earlier,
Uh-huh.
and the question was, if you could ask a Black male psychologist anything, what would you ask him? All right, so
All right.
so we rolling into the Furious Five here, but I'm gonna start
Uh-huh.
the Furious Five with these 3 things. All right, the first question is, now this is a legit question. Somebody did ask me this. She said, "What's wrong with Black men?"
Oh man.
I don't know how you want to take that one, but that was the question. What's
What I want to
wrong
say,
with Black men?
yeah, there's nothing wrong with Black men. Black men are no different than anybody else. However, we've had some different experiences. As we started tonight, brother, we have to be mindful that as a Black man, there are just places I go where I can already feel the threat. Now, I don't know that person directly, but I think a lot of times what I've found, and I'm gonna read into, because you said she asked. What I try to explain a lot of times in some public spaces, that we got to stop gendering people issues. There are some things that we can say, yes, this is what men do. Yes, this is what women do. Yes, this is what Black men do. This is what white men do. This is what Black women do. But there's some things that are just, it ain't got nothing to do with gender. So for someone to ask that
Yeah,
question, I would say, well, first off, let's think about where it's coming from, but let's also think about who we're talking about. Black men are no different than anybody else. We have to get up, we got to pay taxes, we got to take care of kids, we have to deal with relationships, do the other same thing. But we have to be mindful. What are the experiences that can impact a person, that could cause them to act differently, that can cause them to be different? Because Mike, let's be honest, right? And I think you know this about me. I played high school football with Peyton Manning, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What if Peyton and I had switched, right? What if Peyton had to go live my life and I could go live his life, right? Well, we could wind up in the same place, but more than likely, because of lived experiences, opportunity, access, and information, we probably would be very different, right? I might have
Right.
been a Hall of Fame something, 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 right? And he could have been a
Right.
doctor,
Right.
right?
Right.
Still the same people, but those lived experiences very much shape us differently, man. And I would say this in a very sensitive way. I think that's actually why we gotta approach every person in a sensitive way. We don't know. We don't know what other people have gone through.
That's right. That's right.
So
That's good
so to
stuff.
make that assumption that something is wrong with him, maybe if you had, brother, how are you doing? Has anything caused you to feel this way? What has happened in your life that makes you act this way? He probably gonna tell you, yeah, you know what, my daddy wasn't there. Yeah, you know what?
Yeah.
I had to become the man of the house at 12, so I didn't get to be a kid and play with video games and hang out with the fellas. I had to get a job at 14, or you know what? I might have been raped and abused, and so I have this hardened position because now I can't trust anybody. Or the list goes on. Yeah.
Man, that's excellent. All right. Here's the second question for you. How do you combat compassion fatigue? How do
Oh
you
man,
combat compassion fatigue?
cigars, crawfish, and liquor.
Hey, hey, nothing wrong with that. That
So
sounds like a good day. Sounds like a
so
good Saturday or Sunday right there.
especially down in New Orleans and in the booth. So I mean that's part of it, right? I'm very intentional about my leisure time and the things that I enjoy to take me away from my Dr. Turner world, right? But in the
Mm-hmm.
same
Mm-hmm.
token, if anybody follows me on social media and knows me, right now probably my biggest joy that allows me to break away is my daughter, man. Like the time I spend with her and the relationship we have really allows me to just be to her daddy. I mean, she's gotten to the point where she wants me to. She says, "Daddy, you're not a real doctor," and I'm like, "Why not?" And I was like, "Because you don't go to the hospital." I was like, "Well, I don't have to." So we have this debate going on. Why does everybody call me doctor? And so I'm teaching her about all of the different doctors, right? But
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that takes me away because it humbles me, but it also gives me joy. Just what like is she serious, bro? You know how kids could be. Don't nothing you do in the real world matter. Go give me some chicken
Right.
nuggets, bro. Give me
Right.
some
Right.
juice.
Right.
That when you gonna buy me some new shoes? That's what matters. Like nothing else matters. So when we walk through the mall, man, and I can just be Brian and with her, and I think that's the other piece of it, bro. It's like really reminding myself that I can't take myself too serious. That my life is, and I'm still going on this reel I saw recently, and to sum it up, dude said each one of us in this world will leave here with exactly what we come into this world, nothing. So you can't take it too serious. You can't get too overdrawn, and you got to remember to take time and appreciate what you got here, because when you leave, you can't take nothing with you, b.
There it is. There it is. All right. Here's number three. Question number three of the Furious Five. What is the number one issue? And I don't know if you can answer this or not. What is the number one issue that gets uncovered in your black male and female clients? Is that something you can answer?
Yeah, actually, man, this is very thematic, and the research I've been doing around this hits at it. The number one issue is really what we consider broadly defined an identity crisis. And that can broadly be inclusive of Black identity, gender identity, cultural identity, social identity. But you can imagine that for a young Black boy growing up in a world that tells him he has to be X, Y, and Z, but he really wants to be this, right? Well, that's a
Mm-hmm.
crisis, right? And for a world that is telling young Black women that the true value that they have to this world is potentially within their sexuality, when in reality there's so much more. And so I think that's been the biggest thing within my practice I'm finding to cause a lot of stuff. And that can be based in a lot of places. Oftentimes that can be based in those family dynamics, right? If I'm growing up in a family that doesn't really show me love, if I'm growing up in a community that doesn't really offer me opportunities to move beyond some of the limits that are placed upon me, then the question becomes in a very simple way, who am I?
Wow, man, that's good. That's good. All right. If you could have any superpower, what would it be and why?
I love this, man. So you know this probably why we so cool, bro. That's actually one of my first day class questions.
Okay.
My superpower summed up, I would love to be Mr. Incredible. I don't know if that's one
Okay.
superpower, but if I could say that would be encompassing of if I could just be Mr. Incredible, a little bit of speed, lots of strength. You know, we don't want to fly because of the whole cape thing, you know, that thing, but you know, the ability to have all of a conglomerate, a mix of mashup of superpowers. Mr. Incredible would be it.
Okay. Okay. Last question, man. All right. You can walk onto any car lot and drive off with anything you want. Money ain't a thing.
Mm.
What you driving off the lot with?
Oh man, any car lot?
Any car
I'm a
lot.
truck. I'm a truck guy. I'm a truck guy.
Okay.
So
Okay.
right now I'm still in my baby F-150, but I'm dying to get into this electric F-150 in a couple of years. But but I think the thing, and Ocho Cinco had one of these. I'd have to look it up, but it was a six wheel truck.
Oh
But
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah. I saw that.
yeah, that the truck that Ocho Cinco had. I'm a truck guy, so I like, and you know this, Mike from Mardi Gras. I like being able to pull up with everything I need, drop everything
Yeah.
off, big enough for the whole family to ride in. You know, if the kids want to take a nap in between parades, that thing. So I'm a truck guy. I'm gonna go with the truck. I'm gonna go with the truck.
All right, here we go, man. We're in the exit ticket. For those of y'all at home listening or watching, we're in the exit ticket. So we go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So we just wrapped up the Furious Five. Now we're on the Funky Four. So we're gonna ask Dr. Turner to give us the best advice he has received in the following areas: physically, financially, mentally, and spiritually. So this is the Funky Four. All right. So best advice you've received physically about
Physically, I'm
taking
gonna give
care
a
of
shout
your.
out. I'm gonna give a shout out to my man, Dr. Eric Griggs. The best advice physically is to get checked, get fit, get moving. Every day we need to have about an hour of physical activity. The best physical activity is walking about an hour. That doesn't have to be 1 hour straight. You could do 15, 15, 15, 15. You could do 20,
Mhm.
40. You could do 15, 10, 15, 10. Some combination of such. Well, yeah, 10, 10 or 10, 20, however you do. We do that too, but you know what I mean? So that would be it. Every day we have to have some type of physical activity of about an hour's duration.
All right, financially,
Save more than you spend.
mentally,
Oh man, mentally, don't take yourself too serious. Laugh at yourself.
and spiritually.
Spiritually, recognize the higher power and all that happens in and around you and through you. Don't ever think it's all about you. There's something bigger than you.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff. All right, that was the 5 and the 4. Now we're down to 3 recommendeds. So one book, one song, one podcast that has been life changing for you. What's the book?
The book. I am finishing up Economy Hall by Fatima Sheikh, which is a story of the earliest known free society of black men in the city of New Orleans who came together in a very real way to support each other economically, well, financially, spiritually, mentally, and physically. So that book right now
Okay.
is very game changing because once again, as we think about this thing as black men identity, we gotta realize that we've been doing some dope shit for a while and
For a
that's a very
long
good read.
time.
That's a very good read that reminds us that in the midst of the worst that was on around us, that we came together and supported each other. So Fatima Sheikh, Economy Hall would be a great read.
Okay. Economy Hall, Haul.
Hall.
Hall. Okay. Song,
Yeah.
one song.
One song. I love this song. Lenny Williams. I love you. Girl, you know I love you. That song just moves me, man. That song. I
Yeah.
love that song.
Definitely a life changing song. And one
Yeah.
podcast.
I'm gonna shout out the homie Charles Corprew. What's the revolution? Doing dope work, very similar to what you're doing here with the network podcast, brother. Bringing on dope people to have these conversations that change our lives, that give insight to our lives, and that actually hopefully will move our lives.
All right, now we're down. That's the 5, the 4, and the 3. We're down to the 2. This is to do. So, 2 things you plan to accomplish in the next 90 days, the next 6 months, or the next year. What you got?
Oh man, let's see. Two things I plan to do. I plan to have this vacation set up for me and my daughter for the summer, so that she and I can go and sit on the beach and put our feet in the sand, look up at a blue sky. That's one thing.
There it
The
is.
second thing I plan to do, I'm restarting my research lab. I'm going to go ahead and start this push towards full professorship. So I got a dope group of students who are weeding through a number of things that I put on the shelf the last couple of years of the pandemic. And so that's the big thing that I got to do at work is pull my research back together so I could get on this full professor hunt.
Man, outstanding. The 5, the 4, the 3, the 2, and now we're down to the 1. So give us one piece of unsolicited advice that you would like to share. Nobody asked, but you're going to tell us anyway.
Man, the number one unsolicited advice that I would give anybody is a two-parter. One, accept the love. And then two, always give love. Lead with love. So, in a very simple way, in your daily walk, accept that people love you. Accept that they're going to show you love. Don't question it. Just let it be. And then on the same token, lead with love. Give love. Like, let people know that you got it in you. So that would be my unsolicited advice. Give love and accept love.
Man, that is outstanding. Listen, if you're listening to the audio podcast or if you're watching on YouTube, I need you to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, go ahead and give us those 5 stars. You can follow the podcast on Facebook, The Network with Michael Prejean, and on Instagram, _network_podcast. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. You know, I greatly appreciate it. Listen, this is the network. Remember, every episode is designed to help the physical, mental, spiritual, and financial health of Black people living in and traveling through America. Signing off. My name is Michael Prejean. For Brian Turner. Listen, BT, I need you to talk about that shirt real quick, though. Before I
Oh,
sign
man.
off, talk about the shirt.
Look, just a little bit of drip because, see, as a psychologist, one of the things I'm always aware of, sometimes we didn't always do right. So back in the gap, the field of psychology decided that persons of African descent living in America who were enslaved were mentally ill for trying to escape. And so, in honor of us doing this work tonight, I want everybody to see what the bottom part of the shirt is saying, which is what? Catch the fever, baby. Get
Catch the
drapetomania.
fever.
Catch the fever.
There it
Get
is.
drapetomania. Break out of these encapsulated and incarcerated spaces that we're in that keeps us thinking that servitude and slavery and consumerism is what we should be. We should be free. So come on, catch the
Man,
drapetomania, baby.
catch the fever. Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. I
Yeah,
think that's the great Robert Nesta Marley. Man, I wish I had a
yeah,
Bob Marley shirt on. I don't, but I got, I don't know if y'all can see that. I'm rolling with the GOAT tonight, the
yeah. The
greatest of all
greatest.
time, Muhammad Ali.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
listen, again, signing off. I'm Michael Prejean. This is the network for Dr. Brian Turner. Listen, I need y'all to subscribe to the network because you never know. You might need it. Peace.